Welcome, everyone. This is the PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating podcast. Here we chat about all things boating with marine industry professionals and enthusiasts who spend all the time they can out on the water.
Hi, this is Tonia Becker, and I'm your host for today's episode of PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating. I'm joined by my guest, Jason Land. He's the founder of Foothills Marine Tournament Trail. Today, we're going to talk about recreational tournament fishing. There's such an incredible diversity in terms of seriousness, investment, skill levels, etc. across the tournament fishing landscape. And I think this complexity can be a little intimidating to some anglers newer to the tournament scene. So today's conversation should help provide some insights and maybe help people who are sitting on the sidelines wondering how to get started. So Jason, could we start by just giving our listeners some context, just a bit of an overview of the Foothills Marine Tournament Trail and what it's all about?
Foothills Marine Team Bass Trail actually started out as a little small wildcat. It was basically just for bragging rights and a little small entry fee. It kind of grew from there to a travel trail for the spring, and had some people approach me and said, "Man, you really ought to take this thing to the next level." So we kind of did that. Of course, I partnered with Foothills right out of the gate. Nathan Davis there, great guy. He helped me. And basically we're, to kind of tell you about our trail, we're a grassroots tournament trail. We're not a club, but we do an 18 tournament qualifying series, and we have a championship. You have to fish X number of tournaments to qualify. We pay out some great money, have great prizes for the qualifiers. From that, at the fish off, we have big payouts at the fish off. We have points champions payouts. PartsVu, they've put together a huge prize package. So it's kind of just if you fish the trail, as far as the trail, you kind of qualify for the fish off. And once you make the fish off, that's where the big time's at, I guess.
A big time in a small world, right?
A big time in a small world. That's right. Don't get me wrong. We're, like I said, we're grassroots fishermen, but we have some real hammers that fish with us. We have, we have two-time Bassmaster Classic champion Hank Cherry. Him and his son fish with us. We have Brian Thrift fishes with us sometimes. Several elite pros, but it's all about people enjoying it. It's not hardcore, gotta win, so on and so forth. But again, like I said, we're not a club either. So it's a great tournament trail. I hope everybody that sees this will come out and fish and just enjoy everybody that's there.
What bodies of water? It's all North Carolina. All the tournaments are North Carolina. What bodies of water are you fishing on?
Well, the series that's starting on October 10th will be on one lake for the whole series. It's on Lake Norman in North Carolina. The winter time seems to be the time everybody wants to fish Lake Norman. That's when the lake fish is the best. So I do it like I've said earlier, I was doing a travel trail for the spring. But for the winter, it's just with the weather, not never knowing what you're going to get. It's easier just to do it at one lake. So, it'll be out of Queens Landing at Lake Norman in North Carolina.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned that I forget the gentleman's name, the two-time Bassmaster champion. But what's the level of seriousness, in the competition? Is it mostly for fun or,
There's some pretty serious anglers, referencing, Hank and being a Bassmaster Elite champion. Him and his son fish with us, Christian, and great people. I enjoy them being there. But there's also, you have, other fathers and sons who are just weekend anglers. You have brothers who fish together who are just weekend anglers. We really have anything from people that's just getting started in it to, the cream of the crop, really. There's money to be won, but it's not to the point of you're taking time off work to be, to practice and do this and do that. So it's more for the weekend angler, really.
Do you think that people, do you find people newer to the tournament scene get a little intimidated or not quite sure, how it works and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, I see that sometimes. Again, like I said, I've been fishing a long time. I would tell anybody if you want to start tournament fishing, if you really want to get into it, start out by joining a club. There's hundreds of clubs, thousands across the nation. Uh, check out the clubs in your area. Get in as a what we call a non-boater, someone who doesn't own a boat, or even if you do own a boat, you can still join that way. Kind of just getting your feet wet, seeing what the tournament thing's all about on a much smaller scale. Club tournaments usually average, depending on the club, they average anywhere from 10 boats at a tournament to maybe 25 boats at a tournament. And you're not really forking out a lot of money. You pay your club dues. Some clubs do a $10 entry fee at the club tournament. Some do 20. It just varies. But I would suggest to anybody that, that's where you really need to start to see if it's something you really want to do. And the way, with college scholarships and high school fishing teams now, I mean, the younger generation has got way more avenues than we ever had.
Yeah, that's incredible. I've noticed that a lot. With the Bassmaster just launched a youth series a handful of years ago, I believe. Seems like a lot of these are popping up all over the place.
Yeah, the college and high school thing's gotten huge. I mean, it's nationwide. Young people, like I said, they have so many more avenues to get started in this. Especially if it's something you want to do for a career, that's the place to start if you're still young enough.
I might have missed the boat on that one, but
Well, me too.
What do you think is driving the interest in these younger folks in fishing?
That's a very good question. I want to say because people are burnt out on electronics, but iPods or iPads and all that stuff. I don't know. I think really it starts with a lot of it starts at home with your parents. If your parents are not into the outdoors or hunting, fishing, boating, whatever it may be, then you're probably not, unless you have a friend that somewhere along the way introduces you to it. You're probably never going to see that. But I think a lot of it now is the TV access. There's a lot more professional trails now, tournament trails that are televised and all that stuff. It's more out there now. The fishing industry as a whole has just grown leaps and bounds. I mean, you know that better than anybody with being in the PartsVu boat business and all that stuff. We've come so far with electronics and motors and power poles. I mean, you name it. It's crazy how it's just going so big.
I have a hunch that's it. That the sport is just much more visible. On YouTube and all the cable channels and so forth. And I think the electronics and all the technology that's involved now makes it fun and interesting for younger people.
Yeah, you about have to have a college degree to run electronics on a boat now.
I know, it's kind of incredible. It's kind of crazy. I don't think I could do it. As to the degree like some of the, like Garrett Paquette, professional fishermen do. I mean, it's crazy. It's like a NASA caliber situation.
Yeah, it's almost like a video game now.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what he says.
Yeah.
For listeners out there that are interested in getting started, so start at the club level. How do you know when you're kind of ready to move up to more of a tournament trail kind of a situation?
Well, I think you just the best experience you can ever have fishing is time on the water. If you dedicate yourself to it and you put the time in, well, of course it's like anything else. You're gonna get better at it because you're developing the mechanics of it. You're learning what the fish are doing at the times of the year, and it's really you just got to have that drive. If it's something you enjoy, whether baseball, football, hockey, soccer, whatever, it's the same thing. If it's something you have a knack for and you really enjoy it, then you're going to do it. I mean, being honest with you, I know guys that have fished for years, and they'll dabble with the tournament stuff. They'll fish a couple a year or whatever. And I think a lot of it for them was just, again, like I said, the camaraderie and the this, that, and other. Now, you have the other people too who just, they start at a young age and they take it serious and they say, that's what I want to do for a living. And it just kind of goes from there. But I think to directly answer your question, I think if you could start winning regularly at a club tournament level, I say, hey, jump in a couple smaller tournaments. There's all different levels of tournaments. Dabble in it, or you could dive in with both feet. It's totally up to you. But I think that's really when you kind of know you're ready for that, and find a good home lake and fish tournaments there. When you get good there, then start maybe going out to other lakes and trying those tournaments.
I did win the Indian Princesses Bluegill tournament as a kid, but never really.
Well, there you go, right there. Hey, could have been the start of something great.
It just never really occurred to me that to keep, progressing.
Well, there you go. Well, you never know. I mean, it's all about when you catch that first fish, you either get the fever or you don't.
That's right. Yeah. Is there any specific kind of gear that's helpful for tournament fishing that maybe just a dedicated, weekend or a regular weekend fisherman wouldn't, or fisher person, angler might have?
Well, I mean, I think it really kind of just boils down to what you can afford. I mean, everybody can't run out and buy $80,000 bass boat and, rods and reels that are $200-$300 a piece. I mean, but the thing I try to tell people is you don't have to have that stuff. You don't have to have the best reel out there. You don't have to have the high dollar rods. Now you're going to have a boat to tournament fish, or have a buddy who has a boat. Maybe you kind of don't jump in it together. But no, I mean, there's no. I mean, I can sit here and tell you stories of guys who fished 25 years ago and still fish today, and they will come to a tournament with some of the same rods they had then.
Yeah, and do pretty well, I bet.
And will take every bit of your money. So, it's more. You want good equipment, but starting out, no, I would tell anybody, buy you a decent rod, decent reel, not top of the line, because there again, you may not take it. I mean, you may not like tournament fishing. So there you go. You're not wasting all that money. As you progress, yes, you'll want better equipment. You'll want, because your equipment's everything. If you're doing it at that level, you can start out with pretty much whatever you want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's your tournaments, there's no embargo on the lake and, and so forth. Like, so many of the people that are fishing your tournaments are quite familiar with the lake and so forth, I would imagine.
Yeah, for the most part, they are. We basically have two river chains. We have the Yadkin River chain and we have the Catawba River chain. Lake Norman is on the Catawba. And it's funny because they're not really that far apart. I mean, you're talking an hour and a half, but they fish totally different. We have a lot of lakes in our area that are within a decent driving distance where you can really learn different skills on different, for different situations. It's kind of like I said. I mean, if you look at North Carolina as a whole, at how many professional fishermen have come out of North Carolina for the past, I don't know, 30 years.
Why do you think that is? Just the diversity that you have down there, or why?
Well, I think it's the diversity. I also think it's just, it's just what we do here. I think it's awesome.
It's one of the things that can really add up in tournament fishing as you get more and more serious. We were talking about earlier all the electronics, but as you said, I mean, some of these guys that have been doing this for decades, it's I don't know that many of those guys invest in as much of that stuff. It's just more experience and knowing which baits to use and that kind of thing.
It is. And there again, that all goes back to time on the water. It's like anything. You have a skill and you need to hone it and perfect it. A lot of people don't really pay attention to this. I say a lot of people. I have for years. you develop when you're learning, whether it be tournament fishing or just fishing. You find something you're good at within fishing. Like if you're a good shallow water fisherman, that's your cup of tea. That's what you want to perfect. That's, if you're an offshore fisherman, but you have to take into consideration the fish are offshore for a little while, but then they come to the bank for a little while. Then they go back off, so it's always funny. I talk to a lot of guys and they're like, man, I know what I'm doing out in 20 feet of water, but they're just not there. I can't catch them. And I'm like, well, that's because they're in 2 feet of water up on the bank and you didn't learn to be versatile, So, there's a lot of that people just learn. But when they're out there, those guys do good. They win. When they're up shallow, those guys do good and win. And those guys not, so it's a give and take.
I'd imagine there's very few people that are really good at both. I mean, it's, maybe the top of the top probably, but.
Right. Well, there's very few, I will tell you, even at the top of the top, that are good at both.
Yeah, before I let you go, just kind of a non-tournament related question. Just curious where your favorite places to fish are.
My favorite place to fish would be Baden Lake. It's on the Yakima chain. Of course, Florida is my, but I don't get to go down there much. So.
How do you feel about Naples?
Yeah.
Where PartsVu is.
Well, it's funny because a friend of mine, me and him, we usually go down to like Stick Marsh and these are little lakes down in Florida, Stick Marsh and Jurassic Park, and there's another one down there. Man, I'm gonna tell you, Florida's got some big fish in it. They're huge. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh man!
But from a local home standpoint, I would say Baden's probably my favorite lake to fish. It's not a big lake. They don't have a lot of big tournaments there, but they do have some. We have some benefit tournaments, this, that, and the other. I would say probably Lake Norman would be my second favorite because it's 20 minutes from the house. And
That's always.
But like I said, I'm just like everybody else. I like to fish it from November to February, not any other time. So
because it's too hot otherwise, right? I mean, the fishing isn't as good, I would imagine.
Oh, I'll tell you, it ain't got below 90 here in a while.
Oh, wow.
And we've got a big tournament tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, it's gonna be a bowler.
Well, it was really fun talking to you, Jason. If people are interested in coming down to North Carolina, or if they live in North Carolina and interested in fishing in the Foothills Marine Tournament Trail, like where can they find more information, or where can they find you?
We're on Facebook, and it's Foothills Marine Team Bass Trail is our Facebook page. We're also we put our posts on North Carolina bass fishing. There's several Facebook sites. We're working on a website. It's just not up and running yet because we're new at that. It takes time. But yeah, I mean, Facebook would be the place for the information. Again, like I said, it's Foothills Marine Team Bass Trail. That's the actual name of the Facebook page. And I just wanted to say thank you very much. I am so ecstatic and proud to have PartsVu on board with us. I mean, you guys are great. Again, I love the products. I bought apparel, service kits, you name it, I've probably bought it from you. So great customer satisfaction, great people to work with. I won't buy from nobody else. I really appreciate y'all.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you, and we hope to make it up to one of your tournaments sometime soon. So
love to see you. Love to see you.
Thanks for being with us,
awesome.
Jason.
All right. You have a good night.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating podcast. Are you in a dock war with your boating neighbor for the cleanest boat? Check out our marine soaps, polishes, waxes, and more at PartsVu.com. And for free shipping, use the coupon code PVTalksShine, a special perk for our podcast listeners. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for boating knowledge, to keep in touch with the PartsVu community, and for special sales and promotions. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and check out the show notes for the coupon code just mentioned, more information about PartsVu and the products we offer, as well as our boating blog, the PartsVu Xchange. And a big thanks to Min for performing the original music featured within this podcast.